And on the 7th day of the Lord's Ascension, he decreed that the Swiss shall have a tank. And on the 8th day, the Lord said to them, O come all ye faithful, give it a big gun, and absolutely nothing else. Welcome everybody to the Panzer 87 140 review, a tank that comes from, I think that's Switzerland. What is essentially a Leopard 2A4, or a Leopard 2, I'm not really particularly sure, with a really big gun strapped to it, put on tier 10, and well, that's about it really. Oh boy. So, let's compare it to other big gun tanks of the same tier with large, fun size caliber weapons. Let's try the Cat B. We're not going to try the Atdu because I absolutely despise the implementation of that. We'll save the Leopard 2AX till later. And we will choose the Armada 152, and I believe my exam is got the 140. It does have the 140. There we go. So, as you can see here, it has a damage equal to other 140mm of the same tier, with the XM1A3 having slightly better. The penetration is absolutely through the roof with 950 AP. The DPM outclasses the rest except for the T4, the 99-140 and the XM1A3. The T4 having a faster reload, and the 99-140 and the XM1A3 having a higher damage. Its hull hit points is actually 3600 compared to the rest. So it's actually roughly the same level as the Armada and the 99-140, and it has substantially less than the T4, the XM1A3 and the Leopard 2AX. Top speed of 65 basically means that it's quite slow. 0 to 32 is okay, but still significantly slower than the other speedier vehicles, and a weight of 61 tons. Camouflage of 15%, 0% with Douglas, and a vision range while moving of actually 330. Its actual view range is 330, it's the same as the Russians, for fuck's sake. And lastly, a gun depression of -10, roughly the same as the XM1A3, just a little bit hair shorter, and pretty good accuracy. Compared to the Leopard 2AX, to which I'm going to assign you to the reserve, and you to the reserve. So, as we can see here, simply comparing the two, the Leopard 2AX with Freya and the Panzer 140. The Panzer 140's gun is significantly bigger with higher penetration and DPM but less reload. Even with Vincent, its hit points is still significantly lower than the Leopard 2AX, and its hull is actually quite worse as well. The hull, these stats are a lie. Composite with air gaps. It's also significantly slower, significantly less agile, but with better view range. But still, this is view range without all of the stuff. If I just take this, if I just simply take these off, you'll see where we're getting at. Seriously, 350 meters of view range on the tank that's supposed to be a sniper, it's not very good. And lastly, its aim time is also slightly worse than the Leopard 2AX as well, with a slower turret traverse time as well. In terms of actual frontal penetration for these two, let's try at first with the M41 Walker Bulldog. Can the M41 Walker Bulldog penetrate a Leopard 2AX? No? How about the side armor? Alright, there we go. Can the Walker Bulldog penetrate this? The answer is a no. The answer is also significantly weaker armor as well, especially in the side. This also becomes quite apparent when you realize that the Sphinx can also penetrate the side armor as well. In fact, the entire side armor as well as the turret. Comparison with the Leopard 2AX. You begin to see where we're getting at. The real kicker here is that the autocannon cannot penetrate the side armor of the Leopard 2AX, the side turret armor, while it can penetrate the Leopard 2, the 87-140. This means that a 2AX, when firing at opponents with its turret turned, will not be penetrated by any autocannon in the game, but it will be penetrated by, but the 87-140 will. In comparison to slightly heavier weapons, let's see. The Ascod with AP shells can penetrate the Leopard 2A7 from there, and also from this angle as well. Can it penetrate the 140? Honestly, like, so many vehicles are called the 140 nowadays, it's really annoying. You can see here, significantly weaker armor, especially down here, and fucking hell, look at that, it's even worse. And lastly, versus its own gun, let's say the standard tier 8 round. Let's take the 99A2's AP shells. As you can see here, you can't possibly angle this via that, and there's also the issue of the beak as well. In comparison with the Leopard 2AX, again comparing it to the 140, the 99A2, still not the same, but as you can see here, the side armor is actually quite a bit stronger as well. And then lastly, via the Panzer 140's gun, can penetrate the mantle, can penetrate the beak. Don't worry, I'll do the missiles next. And then versus itself, as you can see here, it's not exactly great. Even its own heat rounds can go through. Lastly, versus the highest penetrating missiles in game, it's no real contest, it's completely weak to them. There is no way in hell it'll save itself. And versus the Leopard 2AX, that's quite a bit more protection actually. Yeah. You see where I'm going. So the 87-140's armor is not only bad, it's actually worse than the Leopard 2AX, which has a reputation for being fragile, to say the least. Now, the most success I've had with this vehicle is a view range build, being able to spot things. Let's try optics and telescopic lenses, giving it 385 and 455. The vehicle does also get override, super shy soft kill APS and 0 in. I have no idea why it gets 0 in, because it gets this very weird thing called auxiliary ballistic processor. Now basically your vehicle's stationary for 10 seconds and you can't fire, and you basically have 0.00 accuracy. Why take the 0 in? And in terms of options, there's the ability to have the improved thermal imager, or a 5.5% faster reload. In tier 10, where reload and DPM is key, you see where we're getting at. And lastly, the vehicle has a soft kill APS, but it does not have hard kill, which means any missile thrown at this thing, there's no way in hell it's going to be shot down. This especially will happen at point blank range. So what we have here is an exceedingly fragile vehicle that is fragile versus not only tier 8 MBTs, and it will be penetrated by tier 8 MBTs, with a defense of 3600, which is not only bad, it's actually terrible, because this means that tier 8 MBTs can actually now fight this thing on an even footing, because they will penetrate it. And while they'll lose, eventually you will take massive damage, and there is no way in hell you're going to be able to shield yourself from them, because they will also penetrate you with heat rounds through the front. And let's not talk about the missiles. Against missile heavy builds such as those using Rashid, which completely counter the effects of soft kill APS, the Panzer 87-140 will basically be completely butchered by them. And, because of the lack of hit points, will also die faster than the other MBTs as well. The most success I've had so far is using Vincent, but there is the fact that you could always use other commanders as well. Vincent is that. Cortez is also a thing, but honestly, rolling for max damage when your damage is already high, you don't really gain anything else. And you can also use Douglas as well, but you have 0% camo at that point, so is that something you really want to do? Of course, if you do want to max out a view range build, let's just try this with Douglas. Utility 430 and 500, not bad. And I suppose you could use Philia, but we won't talk about that. And if you really want to do the memes, use Freya and a complete accuracy build, to which at some point your accuracy will become 69% or lower, which I find to be hilarious, to say the least. In all honesty, I have not had fun with this vehicle. The majority of my games in it have been losses with not that much done. 4,800 per game, almost completely one-shotted. It's... well, you'll see. Let's have a look at a game. So, while we get into battle, let's have a quick discussion of this thing's capabilities. The heat rounds are powerful, but also MP. But considering it doesn't have HE and is also significantly less than the other best high caliber heat MP spammer, which is of course the XM1A3, it will do less damage. And in a reality where HE is needed to Amarak other MBTs using splash penetration, or to deal a significant amount of traumatic damage, which it still can't do with heat MP rounds, in fact it will be roughly the same as 120mm, this means that this will lose the heat MP race, and will also get butchered by them as well. However, the gun is relatively punchy, as you can see there, 894 damage, very, very good. But low hit points, even the most hit points you can get this, it will fall apart very quickly, as you can see here, and with a complete view range buff and the fragility of the Panzer 87-140, it requires a very defensive, passive and spotting playstyle. In a tier where it's all about rushing, being aggressive, quick DPS and DPM races, firing heat MP at your enemy to whittle them down, the 87-140 simply cannot compete with other MBTs, and as well as the fact that its hull armor is not only incredibly fragile, means that it will get penetrated a lot by just about every single kind of munition thrown at it. However, what this vehicle does have is 360-degree smoke grenades, which are very, very good to say the least, but in the end it's a bit awkward to play. I have never felt that I'm playing a tier 8 MBT, a tier 10 MBT. I feel like I'm always playing a Leopard 2 with the base Leopard 2 chassis in tier 7, which is very badly armoured for tier 10. In fact, it's actually slightly worse armoured than this. I feel like I'm basically fighting a uphill battle when it comes to using this vehicle, and of course using heat MP means that you will bounce on things. So the damage output of this thing's gun does really not make up for its shortcomings. Also, hi Buford, how are you? Of course I could maximize the damage output with Cortez, but in the end that means that, well, you get the idea. So, anyway, I've taken a very defensive position on this map. In fact, I'm the only one here who is able to provide crossfire onto the hill in reality, and I'm the only one that, if I so choose, is also able to spot the enemies on the A line. I could be doing this with just about any other tier 10 MBT, and in fact I could be having a better time, because they'll be able to resist heat MP fire, they'll be able to resist AP fire, they'll have more hit points, they'll have more... Goodbye, Buford. Note to self, do not stand in the same location after you've smoked up or been visible or spotted, because you know that happens. And as you can see there, getting MP'd repeatedly. Vehicles I could have done this with: an XM1A3, maybe a 2AX, a K2, a Type 10, one of the objects. The list goes on, and in some cases there are tier 9 MBTs that have more view range than this, and stuff like the Merkava, the M1A2 will be able to win a fight with this because they have similar DPM and DPS, but they have vastly bigger hit point pools, so they'll be able to outfight it. And of course, like I said, I can't take on that T90 on the other team. Also, the accuracy railgun thing sound is actually really annoying when it pokes up. Also, note to self: do not do what this CTQ-15 does. In fact, the only advantage this thing really has over other tier 10 MBTs is its 360-degree smoke, which I believe only the Cat B has. This means that it's an effective team support vehicle like the Cat B, and in fact, the only tier 10 MBT it's better at, it's really better, is the Cat B, because the Cat B is, quite frankly, junk. In fact, this could probably still lose a fight with a Cat B if the Cat B player is smart, but, well, they're still playing a Cat B. In all honesty, this vehicle rewards a more defensive playstyle. The game you saw with Noob Down at the start, he did 10,000 damage. In fairness, he did farm quite a few vehicles, and in the end he was in a relatively useless position. But the guy still did 10k damage. And I believe I've encountered a slight spotting issue with this bug, similar to the Stalker, in which I believe that this tank's view range module is actually somewhere above here, so it's able to spot vehicles without being spotted. It's quite weird, to say the least. Also, high 99 140. You can see where we're getting at. And as you can see by all the armor applique, it really doesn't help. While the turret might be slightly better than other MBTs of the same tier, it's simply not going to help. So I'm getting spotted again. Bounce on the Hades. It's becoming a regular occurrence with light tanks and their composite armor to bounce on them. It's actually quite frustrating. Anyway, K2 over there. Loaded an AP round, which bounced anyway. It's quite strange. In all honesty, this thing's gun isn't exactly railgun-like. In fact, I kind of expected it to have better accuracy, and of course you could fully spec into accuracy with Freya, but then at that point, I mean, is that something you really want to do? Same with Cortez. You're capitalizing on the gun's strength even more, but you're losing so much else in comparison. Now, as you can see here, I've lost almost 3,000 hit points. If I was piloting something like a Merkava, an XM1A3, or any of the other heavier, chunkier tanks, I wouldn't be very disturbed by losing 3,000 hit points, but I am in this. In fact, you can reach down near 5,000 with a Merkava. And since this has the same view range as other MBTs of the same tier, this means that you don't really have a advantage over them. 350 meters of view range, sure, you'll outspot the Russian tanks, but I mean, it's only 20 meters. In all honesty, I wish this thing had more view range. I wish this thing had the same camo that AFVs do, into which they don't lose camo until they're 32 kilometers an hour moving or above. And in fact, I made this feedback form quite real, in that I very much want this to be more of a mobile sniper, because I believe that if this thing does get buffs, it's probably just going to end up being, well, everything like everything else. 7,340 damage done so far, and in a pretty decent position. I believe this was the correct position for me to take, as I have crossfire on all the enemies. I'm preventing them from moving up, simply because, well, it's me here. They know the enemies that do go against me, such as the Merkava 4, the 99 140, goodbye turret, know that my gun hits hard and they're going to take significant losses. Also, the fact I also have friends over there as well. Merkava 4, why is he over there? But the Cornet is quite happily backing me up, but I could be doing this in any other MBT. It's just that you would have to do this in the Panzer 87 for for instance, I wouldn't want to be on the front lines in this. When I say front lines, I mean at the bottom of the map, on the J or the I line, because it wouldn't be able to take a hit. So I have to very much be relegated to this sort of playstyle, which means that in order to fully utilize this thing's capabilities, it has a low skills. It has a very low skill floor, but there's not much you can do with it. You can't push a tier 8 MBT because they'll penetrate you. You can't make a quick dash against missile carriers because all of those missiles are going. You can't shoot down any of those missiles. You're weak to heat MP. You can't fight MBTs or lower tier than you. 105mm guns will penetrate you. You will take massive damage from heat MP, and you have lower hit points than everybody else. So, in reality, there isn't much you can do with this. And I know that I really don't talk about PvE much with this vehicle, and that's... I mean, PvE is very much a damage race, and this thing does not excel at a damage race. And, like I said before, its very weak armor means that, well, it's going to get penetrated a lot. So, good luck taking this thing into Spec Ops. Pollen Ball over there. There you go. And that's it for this game, so let's have a look at the post-game stats and everything. So, in reality, 10,253 damage done, 2 enemies spotted, 3 enemies destroyed. Top of the team, of course, very nice damage done. Could I have done this in just about any other tier 10 MBT? The answer is a yes. Also 7k damage bounced, but, well, how much of that was just from lucky bounces, really? It's quite a sad thing, really, because this vehicle very much makes me believe this was intended to be a lower tier or for Balance 2.0. It's quite weak, actually. In fact, I'm going to... where's my bloody feedback page? In fact, I'm just going to simply repeat what I mentioned about my feedback on this vehicle. If you'll give me a second. In the end, the Panzer 87 140 does not feel like it belongs in the game as of right now. The intended playstyle for the tank, as well as its armour, gun and overall feel, speaks to me that this was a vehicle made for 2.0 and not 3.0. It struggles to fit in the PvP meta of fast and aggressive play due to weak armour and low hit point value. Compared to the meta vehicles of tier 10, it is a boring and weak vehicle that can be overpowered by tier 8s and does not have the armour or ability to defend itself versus the heat MP spam from lighter vehicles and penetration from other tier 8 MBTs. What it does right. The Panzer 87's gun is fantastic and easily the closest gun in tier 8 to being the epitome of a railgun when fully spec'd. While it does sometimes bounce and miss, I found it to be easily capable of penetrating side armour, lower front plate, and with the right aiming situation, upper front plate armour of MBTs, giving it advantage in tight situations. 360-degree smoke grenades allow it to cover itself when spotted, including other team members, giving it a valuable asset to rely on with a quick reload time of 25 seconds. What it does wrong. The Panzer 87 is held back by its extremely poor side armour and lack of view range. For a sniper style MBT, it has 2.0 MBT side armour of 150 to 200mm thick, allowing it to be penetrated easily by autocannons, missiles and tier 8 cannons even while angling, and forcing it to have an extremely cautious and slow playstyle, opposed to the intended 3.0 MBT playstyle. My suggestions? If the Panzer 87 is intended to be a sniper MBT, then I suggest granting it the AFE mobility camo bonus of allowing it not to lose concealment until 32 km an hour. This will allow it to fulfill its sniper role and protect it from being easily spotted and destroyed. A view range buff to the old 2.0 tier 10 MBT of 400 meters would allow it to perform an asymmetrical playstyle of allowing it to upspot other tier 10 MBTs and engage them on its terms, as well as providing defense from other snipers. My recommended buffs for this vehicle is a flat side armor boast of 200 to 250mm thick and a base 15% camo until 32 km an hour, and a view range buff from 330 to 400 meters. In the end, my overall verdict for the Panzer 87 140 is quite sad. This was a vehicle made for a game 8 months ago that changed 2 months later. It is a game, it is a tank made for a different time, in a different place, in a different setting, and it struggles to fit in with the gamers of today. Well, on that sad note and on that bombshell, it's time to end the review. I hope you enjoyed this little tidbit, and I will be uploading a video tomorrow of another game in this, in which I use the smoke and everything more liberally. So for now, take care everyone. I hope you enjoyed this review. Stay safe out there, and see you all next time.